Hello, welcome to a devlog. This is for defeating a user-built dungeon. Let's take a look. This is going to be all offhand, so don't expect it to be very curated. Alright, let's get a look at the world here. You can see the nodes we got set up here. Let me check that. Okay. And we got 5 nodes here. We got a main, we got a V-split, we got two labels, and a timer. But let's get a look at the game so far. So this is how it works. Simple roguelike. Kinda ASCII based. Move around. I left the dungeon. You don't want to leave the dungeon. You want to keep going. So let's pick up the key. Go past the door. Defeat the rat. Go downstairs. Alright. Now the point of this game is you need files to continue. So let's take some files in. Drop them in. And you can see it goes up to 4 now. We now have that many levels ready to go. Alright, this room we have 2 doors and 2 keys. So let's pick up the 2 keys. And we can go to the next floor. This room is pretty simple. You just go past the maze. This room's got some rats in it, so let's kill the rats. Pick up the keys. Go past the doors. Alright. That's what I've got so far. Fairly interesting. Now let me show you what I'm making this for. I'm making for the roguelike. This is r/roguelikedev. And they have a bit of a, I call it a game jam pretty much. Here's my comment. Looking for my own post. Let's see if I can find my own post here. No. They're doing a complete roguelike tutorial. We're on week 3 now. Here's my post. Defeating user-built dungeon. Right now we got 2 parts. We got adding enemies and FOV. FOV seems pretty freaking complicated, so I skipped that. I am now just building the levels by hand. No proc gen at all. That's a pretty antithetical to what a roguelike is, but I think it's an interesting new direction. So let's show you what the project looks like. It's all one big script file. You can find this on my GitHub if you want to check it out. So let me walk you through it, what we got so far. We set up, I've added the version into the code. That way I know what the version should be for all my files when I make the export. We set 3 constants with all the different objects in the world. We have the interacts, which happen first, the collides, which happen second and prevent movement, and the entities, which count as interact and collide. You collide with it. Well, first you interact with it, you do damage to it if you want to, and then you collide with it. I was thinking of adding something like a dog, so you interact by petting it, and if the dog likes you, it will follow you. That's a pretty future thing though. I don't know how to make a dog follow you through the floors. Maybe have a pet system, an array of pets that follow you. Anyway. Here's where I handle my input, and here's my ready function. Now, for this project, I wanted to be... I started off looking at the roguelike dev Reddit. It's like, I want to make a roguelike. But I had already made an earlier project, which I'll show you now. This is another roguelike. And let's see, what can I show you here? This is not ready. Let's push this. I got 2 tests here. This is my first initial starting test. You can see the character move across the screen. And we got these 3 goblins up here. This is kind of the basis of what I wanted to build. You can go for the walls right now, there's no collision. The only thing that is really handled is this right here. But you can't go through it. This is the basis of what I was doing for this roguelike project. This formed the foundation. I figured this out, and it kind of unlocks some other stuff. I'll go ahead and show you this. This is the proc gen. As you can see, it's kind of making a walker path that runs through the level and makes a bunch of big rooms. And this is kind of the same thing. It's still a label, except it's now a rich text label. It's a little bit different. Actually, they're both rich text labels. That's something I dropped for the new version. I dropped it and put it in a regular label. This does not support multiple colors per line. It's all one color. I've currently gone with one color and an outline. It's white and one outline, which is the purple. 190,730. Yeah. I'm still getting used to that. Alright. Let's walk through the code once more. So we handle input here. I don't know what you really do in a devlog, right? I mean, usually in a devlog you like drink coffee and you have to edit it really good. You have to have a lot of pictures of you like doing push-ups. I think that's what the devlog is, right? Well, I'm just going to show you all my code. And kind of show you my process here. Now each turn we have a process turn function that will handle everything that's supposed to interact. We start with moving the player. The player should always move first. It should always be the fastest. Unless there's something that's faster than the player, then I move it before that. That way it always hits the player. Like right now, projectiles wouldn't hit the player if they dodge out of the way. Which is, I think that's a good thing. You want to be able to dodge projectiles. And I could just scrap this. Right now it would be kind of hard to scrap, but I could make it so that there's, like, everything's in a big array. Every entity that moves or attacks is an array, and they all have a speed. And it has an order of operations there. Oh, sorry about that. I'm looking at this code and it's hard to explain for me. Here's where we handle all the interactions between the certain objects. Then we'll go between, it'll take a type, a location on an array, and then it'll check if that type is equal to any of these specific things. Now you don't want this list to get too long because it's going to slow it down, but I've had some good luck before with doing a big if-else-if loop every time you check something. I've tried that before and it's worked for me. Here's the big piece of the pie. Now let's look at files dropped. I had to look up some like 5-year-old code to make this work. Now let's read through it. Files dropped. It's connected to the signal and ready. Get tree connect, files dropped, self files dropped. There's a files dropped signal in the scene tree. And I'm connecting it to this function here. File screen. It will take, let's see, I'm not using screen, I don't think. I don't even know what screen is that much. It was just in the documentation, so I just copied it and pasted it in. I do use files. that contains an array of all the files that you drag and drop to the screen, which is the point of the game. You drag and drop the files, and I think I showed you that earlier. You drag the files in and it adds new levels. Now we start the file index. We set the extensions that we have. Right now it's just txt. Later that'll be an array if we want to support other file types. And then we do some error checking. We make sure that the current room is not below 0, because we treat current room as an access to an array of rooms. And if that was below 0, it would just get messed up. Now we go iterate for each file, and we define each file right here for file and files. That's how it works. We get the extension, make sure it's the right extension. If it's not, it continues, it goes to the next file. And then we make a new file that's temporary in code. And then with that file, we open the original file here for its path. Then we set a data variable, which is a blank string. We got a new index. We now have 2 indexes. And we set the label empty, the level label text before starting. Now the first file it reads should pretty much always replace the level, so that's why we want to remove the text here. Now for this one, we make sure that we read through the entire file line by line while not end of file reached. And here we check if the index is greater than 6. If it runs through too many lines and it's too large for our screen, we break and don't use it anymore. And then for the rest of this, we can see we get each line piece by piece, and then add that to the data at the end. And make sure, right here, we make sure if it's less than 6, we add a new line. At the end, we don't add a new line, so we make sure it's only set to 6. If I change what the size of the screen is, or change how I've handled it, right now it's set to shrink by 5 times, so it's zoomed in a lot. But if I change that later, I might get more lines. So I want to change all that later. And this will be where I'll change it from. Then of course you close the file, and this is where I start changing the level. I append all the data to the rooms. And this is still in that for loop, so per file append a new room. And if it's 0 and level change, we have different functionality, whether this boolean is true or not. I didn't go over what level change was. I probably should have gone over each variable, but code is hard to explain, and I don't see many devlogs that go into a meticulous process of every bit of code. I just felt like that's what you do in a devlog. You go over what you've done since last time. Anyway, if it's not one of these two, it'll append it to data and then change level again. And then at the end of that, +1 is the file index. So this is the whole function. It's probably the longest function. I think it's about the longest function I got so far. And that handles all my files. Okay. That pretty much covers what I want to show you here. Now, there's not too much I can show you so far because there's not much of a game here yet. You got movement, you got interaction, but you don't have puzzles or anything. I don't know how to add puzzles just yet. But you can drag and drop levels, that's the cool thing. Now if I was to add a lever, what would the lever do? Would it open a random door? Maybe you could connect it to, you have a gate. If you push a lever, all gates will open. That's a good functionality, I think. It's a bit of a challenge in my mind. Everything's got to work within this very strict framework that it's set. And I don't want to include too much information in the level data that you provide. I just want the level to be there. I don't want to have to set lots of little details. This is a very simple project right now. I'll show you again. Right now it's only 5 nodes. I had to cave in and add the timer node. Right now it used to be 4. And the feed split container is dividing this up into 2. Alright, in sum, I would say I recommend using Godot for your game projects, or Unity, or Unreal. The other ones you can pretty much skip. But, yeah. Yeah, you can skip the rest. I mean, there's plenty of good game engines out there. They're just... I guess one was good for Undertale, like Game Maker was good for Undertale. That's pretty much all I know it for. It was good for one game. And it ran pretty well. So Game Maker can't be that bad. Alright, now to stop dissing on the engines. Let's call it an episode. Thanks for watching.